Welcome to Global Bible Study, brought to you by World Christianity from Brazil Adventist University. We will be studying together for the following 13 weeks the Sabbath School lesson entitled, Making Friends for God, the Joy of Sharing in His Mission. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, in this episode, Marianna, an education graduate and a theology student at Brazil Adventist University, is my co-host.
And to discuss why witness, we welcome Dr. Johnny Ramirez-Johnson from Puerto Rico. He is an alumnus of Harvard University and currently works as a professor of anthropology at Fuller Theological Seminary in California, USA. Pastor Hezron Jacob from India, a graduate student at Brazil Adventist University, enrolled in the missiology program. He and his wife have worked as missionaries in Lebanon for the last 3 years. Miriam Stoykov from England. She is a pastor's child who has lived in Ireland, Germany, Russia, and the USA, and is now the director of the English Language Center at Newbold College, England. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us for today. And we are about to begin the discussion of our global Bible study.
One of the interesting Bible texts is found in 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, where we read, "For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth." Dr. Ramirez, does God need us in order to save people or not? And then what is really our role in witnessing and God's mission?
Well, Dr. Diaz, you began with a very small, insignificant question. that question you pose has, like most realities that we confront, more than one side. Definitely, God has no need because of lack of capacities, but God has a need because of relationships. And that distinction is not easily grasped.
Very nice. Our study guide has the question. It says, we do not witness to give people their only chance to be saved. We witness to give them their best chance. So is that where we come in? Miriam, how do you see this?
Just repeat that again. So witnessing so people become their best.
So they have the best chance to be saved.
Well, I guess witnessing does go both ways.
Yes.
The person witnessing and the one being witnessed to, they get the blessing in many ways. I guess I've felt often there've been cases when I've even tried to witness subtly, but I've really felt this strengthening of my faith as well whenever I've had to share my story. And then to see how much my story has impacted other people as well, even if I didn't expect it at all. Yes, does that answer the question?
Yeah, of course. One of the understandings that have impacted greatly the study of mission in the last few decades is the idea that God is the primary missionary, and that mission ultimately flows out of God's character and from His heart. What is that, Pastor?
Well, I am glad to jump into this question because, if I may, the very crucial idea of salvation is understood from the context of the Roman Empire and the Pauline contextualization. And it should not be taken as a universal only perspective of the ways of God. I rather read the Bible through the lenses of the Old Testament, where the issue is, were you born to the right family or not? And if you were not born into the right family, how do you get into the family? And not a question of deciding salvation or not, but a question of deciding relationship, being in relationship or not. That will be my suggestion, that it is not about, it has never been about, will I be saved? That's not really a question. It's like asking any one of the panelists here that has a nephew that they love, if they were to be asked the question, do you want to do something good for your nephew or your niece? Or if they have a son, or if you are already in having grandchildren, that I don't think any of you are, there's no issue. I will always do anything and everything from my grandchildren. It is a question of quality of relationship. That's where we come in.
Pastor Hezron, you've worked
Yes.
as a missionary, and I'm here wondering, when you understand that God is the primary, the one most interested in saving people, as Dr. Ramirez was referring to now, what are some of the implications of this in real life? How does that affect the way you go about witnessing to other people?
Yeah. The first of all, I believe the willingness to witness is a decision that each one must make. So your own testimony is the best way you can share. It's not just the Bible truths, and broad-mindedness to listen carefully to the other. I think that is an imperative factor in the soul winning process. And God, he doesn't want us to bear the entire weight on our shoulders. He wants us to work alongside him, and so Jesus is the primary focus, and he's always there for us, and that's how we can go about doing the work, and he's always there. And as we share, I think Miriam, that's her name, she said it's a two-way road. It strengthens our faith. Our spirits will be revived, and our faiths will be bolstered as we go forth to tell others.
I love what Pastor Johnny said about bringing the gospel to people, about bringing relationship to them and being connected to them, because that's really what it's all about making our family, or the family of God, bigger. And I'd like to ask Miriam about, in your personal experience, what do you think are some demonstrations of that love that you have witnessed or that you have experienced in your own life when witnessing?
So I've always admired my parents. So they're missionaries, and my mother is a very bold woman. She doesn't mind speaking boldly about her faith. But for me personally, it hasn't been easy. I think I've had to find different ways of witnessing that are maybe more natural to me. So for me, it's been a lot about action. So I guess, Marianna, you might remember at your time at Newbold, but we used to visit the homeless in London, and on a weekly basis. And I think for me that was one of the biggest ways that I had the opportunity to witness and to see the effect immediately. Sometimes witnessing takes time, but this was more of an immediate effect. And I think if I had to answer the question, what was the most impressive demonstration of love that I have witnessed, it would be, I remember one evening, it was one Friday evening, it must have been autumn, a bit colder, and we split into different groups to visit different parts of London. And then we were approaching the end of the night, and one of the group leaders, we all came back, and I noticed he didn't have his shoes on. So, I think that's something that stuck with me, because he didn't lose his shoes. Let me just clarify. He gave his shoes to a homeless person. So I think that's something that really stuck with me, and was an example to me. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ramirez, so would you say that the main reason or motivation for us to engage in God's mission would be related to his love?
It should be selfish. Our main motivation for engaging in mission should be selfish. Just as selfish as God is. God cannot withstand not being in relationship with each of us. Each of us are so unique that it is selfish interest. God wants us all. That's the beauty of Philippians chapter 2, and the last two verses give the climax and the purpose of the salvation enterprise, so that every knee will bow before Jesus. If Jesus had said it, he would have said that everyone would be seated around the table of the banquet. But Paul loved the imperial things, so he made everybody bow. Probably we would be bowing before we sit to eat. Jesus would have focused on the sitting along the same table. Paul focused on the bowing and worshiping God. So God has self-love, and he needs, in the sense of relationships, to be with all of us. And we should be doing the same, because I need Jacob as much as I need Marianna. And I need Lucas and Marcelo, because I am incomplete. Just like God is incomplete without the pieces of God that are in us. I better be quiet now.
That's beautiful.
And even Matthew 9:36 says that Jesus had compassion. This is throughout the Gospels, you see a phrase that is frequently used, that he felt compassion. So these words describe what Jesus often experienced when he encountered people in a helpless condition. So when we go about reaching people, the unreached, whatever we call, we need to have the same compassion and that selfish love that Jesus had, to go about reaching the unreached.
And Pastor Hezron, what suggestions would you give for young people to go about experiencing this outflow of God's love through their lives?
The first thing that, depending on the people that you reach, most young people, they are very dynamic and they love making friends. So I would say that you could always, my friends here know that I love being invited at a home for a meal. And, working for salvation, for the salvation of the lost is integral to our conversion process. This thing is integral to our conversion process. So with that in mind, God is going to work two ways. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to understand the person whom we're going to meet from his context, what he likes, and not just go about religious conversation. Probably it should be football or something that he likes. Invite them for a meal, and that is something that would communicate to him, and then build bridges with the common points that they have, probably with this belief. Especially, we have to be cultural sensitive. The young people who are preparing to be missionaries or who are already missionaries in another culture that is not their own, they have to be very cultural sensitive to know the kind of baggage that they have, which is very important, so that we would be able to contextualize the gospel message in a way that he understands. So this is very important, and friendship is everything. Jesus went about, he is a friend of everyone, friend of sinners. He sat and ate with everyone you can imagine. So I think we should, when we follow these examples that Jesus did, it's going to be fine. And he's there with us, he's the chief master, the guide. And when we follow him, everything comes well. it is going to be a success.
Well, it seems that when seeing the context of relationship and out of love, it becomes a cycle. We experience God's love in our lives, and now we express that to other people into a loving relationship, and that's how it goes. Now, there are some stories in the Bible that will also show the end results of that process. And the study guide talks about some of them. We know the parables in Luke 15. What happens in the end?
Yeah, just as in when people come in contact with the gospel, their lives are transformed. And in the Bible, we have many stories where this happens. And our study guide talks a lot about this. And we just wanted you to share for the end of this. So we talk about it's important to witness, and then what happens when we do it? What are the impacts that we can create in people's lives?
Okay, I love the question. If we look at one of the less popular of those parables, the lost coin, we get, I think, a closer and more discreet picture of the experience of salvation. The coin has no idea it is lost. So it's all about the woman who is looking for the coin. She's the one that has the party. Well, that woman represents God. Any parable that puts God as a woman, I love that parable. It's going to be deeper, and it's going to be full of meaning to exploit. God is the party that benefits of our salvation. The number one party. The coin couldn't care less, did not know what was going on, but the owner knew. The owner wanted that coin. And when the coin is found, there's a party, not for the sake of the coin. They did not say, oh, we are celebrating you, coin, you made it. You're such a big thing. It is all about the woman who lost it. Just the same way the father runs after his two sons. It's not one prodigal son, there are two prodigal sons. One was at church, looking after the business of the father for the purpose of law keeping and having no relationship significant at all. He never understood everything was his. He always saw himself as a servant. It is always about the father. It is always about the woman who lost the coin. It is always about the shepherd. It is God's self-interest. It is selfish as a father doing anything for a child. And this love is as selfish as being willing to go to a cross to satisfy the self-interest.
When we go to different countries and we learn from different cultures, we realize that every culture has its own ways of celebrating life. I'm curious, Miriam, you've lived in different countries. What are some of the interesting ways of people just celebrating life and partying that you have witnessed in your experience? Is there anyone that jumps to mind?
Well, I think in general it's a very big party, isn't it?
Yes.
So, yes, very often, I guess the people I know, they would have a big party, invite friends. So you want to share this special moment with people. Gifts, depends on your love language, really. Yes. So, yes, other things, maybe also traveling. Some people like to just celebrate these moments alone, meditating, reflecting on their life. So it depends.
How about in India, Hezron?
Yeah, so invite probably everyone you have come across in your life, not necessarily the ones that are really close. And it's just joy in giving. This few months ago, we went to India and to show our little child to our parents. She was just 3 months back then. And you see that people who haven't seen us, whom I don't even know, have given several gifts. expensive gifts, and so that's something, they love giving and sharing in our culture. The sense of community is very strong.
Yes. How about Puerto Rico?
You have to have noise, lots of noise, lots of running about children that are expressing themselves, going from one family member to another, running after each other, eating and making noise. Give me noise. Give me a lot of people bumping with each other and kissing each other.
And I suppose food is a common element in all cultures, right? Everyone.
Exactly.
Well,
But then why did you not mention it? That is the characteristic. If you go by a party and everything is silent and everybody is seated in their place, will it be a party?
I don't know.
Probably they're wondering where the food is.
I think as we're coming to our conclusion of our time together, there's the last question we wanted to pose here. That is, so I think that there is a danger that maybe as a church, we may at times forget the main purpose of our existence. How do you feel about that? And what would be a way to counter that tendency?
Oh, that is the most scary thing, and is the most common. Instead of making it the mission of God, we make it the survival of the institution. Like there was any merit in the institution. And we have beautiful institutions, and I have lived of the institutions all my life. I am a professor. There has always been an institution that I am drawing my salary from. Some. Don't believe that I am putting down institutions. I love institutional life, but that is never the purpose. The purpose is the mission of God, the coming together. How to prevent us from making the institution the center? Do not allow overpowering leaders take charge. Overpowering leaders that want everybody to be in control and only have one way of defining things. That is the 666. That's what the 666 does. The 666 that we must fear is not the one that's going to give us a Sunday law. Is the one that will prevent diversity from within the church, because we need diversity in order to concentrate not on the survival of the institution, but on the mission of God. Those voices that are protesting, like in Acts chapter 6. If you read Acts chapter 6, it's a big gossip experience of people who are not being heard, of people who are being put down, of people who are being ignored. And when the church listens, then the mission exploits. And the Spirit makes wonderful things. And that needs to be repeated time and again and again. But if there's a leader that wants everything under control and wants to keep everything tight, because control is the mission, Satan has taken control.
Miriam, how do you feel about that? You live in Europe, where we see some challenges in that sense.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. So I think some of the dangers that we could have is getting comfortable in the situation that we're in, because I guess I mean, I can talk about my context, maybe let's say maybe we have everything we need physically, and then it's very easy to forget about the spiritual needs as well. And if you don't need anything sometimes we forget to seek God. And I was just thinking about, the question was, what is our purpose as a church is well? Oh, I mean, sorry, the main purpose. I think we need to remember what it is. If it is to seek God's kingdom and to be disciples, I think we need to find a way of doing that in this context. There's a Bible verse that I was reminded of this morning. It's 1 John 3:18, which says, "Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other, but let us show the truth by our actions." So I think that's one thing. Very often, we go to church and we hear love, we preach it, but we don't do it. And I think in this context, I think it has to be about actions. Faith is action. God is action.
I think Paul in Romans chapter 1, he says that I'm a debtor both to Greeks and to barbarians, to the wise and to foolish. It's never too late to start witnessing for Christ. The biggest challenges that we face is that most people, they feel a sense of inadequacy when it comes to sharing their faith. Maybe they're intimidated by their moral failures. And there's this example when Bible where it says that the disciples, they were casting out demons, they were doing everything. And then Jesus looks up to Peter and said, when you are converted. So you don't have to always wait to come to fullness of your knowledge so that you can start sharing the gospel. The most people, they think it's the work of the church to do it. Oh, it's not mine. We say it's okay. It's not my business to do this. The work of the pastor, it's the work of the church. Everyone should be involved. And the biggest challenge is everyone needs to know God would use them where they're at. God used the disciples where they were at. So you don't have to be, while you're sharing, so that's when the transformation takes place. That's when things changes. And then you foster relationships. I give tips to those people who I give Bible studies with, who I teach. It's about pray with them, serving them, listening to them, embrace their feelings, needs, desires. Sometimes these people, they come to church on a weekly basis. They just go there, listen to a sermon, they leave. But then these people need to get involved. Once they are involved and once they share, you can see things just going on. The biggest challenge is we need to motivate, we need to make our people to get involved. And the need that they need to know, they have to start sharing the gospel where they're at. God is going to use them.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And before we close, thank you so much, everyone, for participating and for the wonderful inputs you have given to us for this conversation, for the discussion. And we want to establish a tradition here of learning how to wish Happy Sabbath in different languages. So, Pastor Dr. Ramirez, could you please begin saying Happy Sabbath in a language of your choice, and we will each contribute with something.
Feliz Sábado.
Okay, well, Happy Sabbath and Sretna Subota.
Well, I would say in two languages, one in Arabic, that's where I served for 3 years in one of the countries in the Middle East. Sabt Sayyid is Happy Sabbath in Arabic, and I would want to say Oivunal Nalvartukal, which is in Tamil.
Thank you so much. So to end, I think we can say Feliz Sábado from Brazil. And
Feliz Sábado.
Guys, thank you so much. And I think this is it. And have a blessed week. And also for the people hearing us or watching us, we will have an Instagram account also, which is World Christianity, @World Christianity. And there you can follow and have exclusive content and follow us for the next lessons of the following weeks. So we will be presenting for the whole quarterly, and we will be very glad to have you all in this journey with us. Thank you so much.